The meeting hall on Nexus Prime Station felt cold today. Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim straightened his tie and checked his notes one more time. Behind him, his small team sat quietly. Mina Park, his intelligence officer, kept her face blank, but her eyes were sharp. Tae-ho Lee, their military man, looked uncomfortable in his dress uniform. Around them, the aliens filled the massive chamber. The Valkyrie delegation took up the largest section. Their purple skin gleamed under the artificial lights, and their four arms moved constantly as they talked among themselves. They always acted like they owned the place. Next to them sat the creche, looking like giant insects in expensive robes. Their compound eyes never seemed to blink. Dozens of other species filled the remaining seats. Some looked almost human, others were so strange that Hyun-woo still felt surprised after 5 years of diplomatic work. But they all had one thing in common today. They were all staring at the human delegation with the same look. Like parents about to scold naughty children. Council Speaker Velterix stood up. The Valkyrie was tall, even by his species standards. His voice boomed across the chamber when he spoke. The 47th session of the Galactic Council will now begin. Today we address the human problem. Hyun-woo felt his jaw tighten. The human problem. 3 years ago they called it the human question. Before that it was the human situation. The language kept getting worse. Honored Speaker, Hyun-woo said, standing up. We prefer to call it human galactic relations. Some of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Veltarix looked at him like he was a pet that had tried to speak. You prefer many things, Ambassador Kim. That is part of the problem. The speaker's four arms gestured broadly. Humans always want things their way. You refuse to follow proper procedures. You ignore our guidance. You act without permission. Mina leaned forward slightly. Her hand moved to her tablet, fingers dancing across the screen. She was recording everything, as always. We follow the same laws as every other member species, Hyun-woo replied. The Galactic Charter guarantees equal treatment for all. Equal? The word came from the creche section. Counselor Zektar rose from his seat, his insect-like features twisted in what passed for a smile among his kind. You have been members for barely 50 years. The creche have guided galactic civilization for over 10,000 years. The Valkyrie for 8,000. You think 50 years makes you our equals? More sounds of agreement echoed through the chamber. Hyun-woo looked around and saw the same expression on every alien face. Condescension, pity, annoyance. We think being sentient beings makes us equals, Tae-ho said quietly. But his voice carried in the sudden silence. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Veltarix, four eyes focused on the military officer. Ah yes, human sentience. So young, so limited, you barely understand faster than light. Travel, your ships are crude, your weapons are primitive, your social structures are chaotic. And yet, Hyun-woo said carefully, human trade makes up 30% of galactic commerce. Human engineering keeps half the stations in this sector running. Human peacekeepers stop more conflicts than any other species. Exactly the problem. The shout came from the back of the chamber. A Phylorian representative stood up, his scaled skin flushed red with anger. Humans stick their noses into everything. You think you can solve every problem. You think you know better than species who were exploring space when your ancestors were still living in caves. The chamber erupted. An agreement. Voices rose in dozens of languages, but the message was clear in all of them. Humans were the problem. Veltarix raised all four arms for silence. When the noise died down, he began to speak again. His voice was calm, reasonable. That made his words even worse. The Council has been patient. We welcomed humans into galactic society. We shared our knowledge. We allowed you to establish colonies, to trade, to participate in our ancient civilization. But patience has limits. He gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a list of human activities over the past year. Trade routes, exploration missions, diplomatic interventions. Look at this record. Humans operating without council approval. Human ships exploring restricted sectors. Human diplomats interfering in local disputes. Human colonies expanding into areas designated for other purposes. Each point appeared, highlighted in red. This cannot continue. Hanwoo felt his heart rate increase. Mina's fingers moved faster across her tablet. Even Taeho sat up straighter in his chair. What exactly are you proposing? Hanwoo asked. Not proposing. Deciding. Veltarix smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp and too many. The Council has voted. The human expansion must be controlled. Your faster-than-light technology will be surrendered to Council oversight. Your exploration activities will be limited to approved sectors. Your military forces will be reduced to levels appropriate for internal security only, and if we refuse, you will not refuse. This came from Councillor Zektar. The Council will ensure compliance. Your colonies will be placed under protective custody. Your trade routes will be managed by more experienced species. Your people will be relocated to worlds where they can be properly supervised. The words hit like physical blows. Hanwoo felt his diplomatic training kick in, keeping his expression neutral even as rage built in his chest. You're talking about the enslavement of 4 billion human beings. We prefer the term guided development, Veltarix said smoothly. Humans are clearly not ready for full independence. The evidence is overwhelming. You wage wars among yourselves. You damage your environment. You refuse to follow established protocols. These are signs of an immature species. There is one more requirement, Zektar added. His compound eyes glittered with malice. Human children will be removed from their families for proper education. They will be raised in Council facilities where they can learn appropriate behavior. This will ensure the next generation of humans is better suited for galactic civilization. The chamber fell silent. Every alien eye was fixed on the human delegation, waiting for their response. Hyunwoo looked at his team. Mina gave him the smallest nod. Her message was sent. Taeho's hand rested casually near his sidearm, though they all knew it would be. Useless here. Slowly, Hyunwoo stood up. He gathered his papers with deliberate care. His movements were calm, precise. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the chamber. The United Earth Government formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. All diplomatic relations are hereby terminated. All treaties and agreements are void. All human assets and personnel will be removed from Council space within 90 days. The silence stretched for several heartbeats. Then the laughter started. It began with Veltarix, a deep rumbling sound. Other aliens joined in. Soon the entire chamber echoed with alien amusement. Withdrawal? Veltarix could barely speak through his laughter. Little humans think they can just leave? Where will you go? What will you do without our protection? Without our trade? Without our guidance? Hanwoo picked up his briefcase. Mina and Taeho stood with him. We'll manage, he said simply. As they walked toward the exit, Zektar called after them. You have 72 hours to reconsider. After that, we will be forced to take action for your own good. The humans didn't look back. Outside the chamber, Mina finally allowed herself a small smile. Signal sent? Hyunwoo asked. Operation Exodus is now active, she confirmed. Every human ship, every colony, every station, they all got the message. Taeho grinned fiercely. Think they'll figure it out in time? Hyunwoo looked back at the chamber doors one last time. Inside, the aliens were already arguing about how to divide up human territory. No, he said. I don't think they will. 3 months had passed since the humans walked out of the Galactic Council. At first, the aliens had celebrated. Finally, they could run the galaxy properly without those troublesome humans getting in the way. The Velthari started making plans to claim the best human colonies. The Kresh began calculating how much profit they could make from human trade routes, but celebration turned to confusion when the first reports came in. Admiral Zethkar of the Velthari Navy stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the empty space where New Geneva should have been. The human colony world was supposed to be here, orbiting a yellow star just like their homeworld. His sensors showed the star, the other planets, even the asteroid belt. But where 2 million humans had lived and worked, there was nothing. Scan. Again, he ordered his bridge crew. Sir, we have scanned 17 times. There is no colony. No orbital stations. No ships, no debris, no signs of battle. His sensor officer's voice was strained. It is as if they simply vanished. This was the 5th human world Admiral Zethkar had visited. All of them were the same, empty, not destroyed, not abandoned. Just gone? Sir, incoming message from Fleet Command, his communications officer reported. The holographic image of Fleet Admiral Tekthara appeared in front of him. She looked tired and confused, unusual for a Velthari commander. Zethkar. What is your status? The same as the others, Admiral. Nothing, no humans, no colonies, no trace of where they went. It makes no sense. None of it makes sense. Tekthara rubbed her temples with 2 of her 4 hands. 67 human worlds, all empty. The crush. Report the same thing in their sector? The Thylorians found nothing. Even the small independent systems that had human settlements report the same thing. Admiral Zethkar felt a chill run down his spine. All of them? Every single human colony. Everyone we have found so far. Over 2 billion people just gone, no ships detected leaving. No distress signals, no requests for help. They just, left. The connection ended, leaving Admiral Zethkar alone with his thoughts. 2 billion people did not just disappear. It was impossible. Even with their crude technology, moving that many humans would require thousands of ships. Someone should have seen something. Meanwhile, in a different part of the galaxy, Captain Jinho Nam watched the Velthari fleet through his ship's sensors. The U's Defiance hung invisible in space, its new stealth systems making it undetectable. To alien technology. Jinho had been following the alien search fleets for weeks now, documenting their confusion and growing panic. Captain, we're receiving another transmission from the Velthari command ship, his communications officer reported. Put it on speaker. Let's hear what they think happened to us. The alien voices filled the bridge, speaking in their own language. But the translation software made their words clear enough. This is impossible. Humans do not have the technology for this. Perhaps they received help? The Altarians have advanced stealth technology. The Altarians hate humans almost as much. As we do, they would not help them. Then how? How do you hide 2 billion people? Jinho smiled grimly. If only they knew. Humans had not hidden. They had left. Every single one of them, using technology the aliens never suspected humans possessed. Captain, his tactical officer spoke quietly. Should we report back to Fleet Command? Not yet. Let's see how much more desperate they get. On the Council, Station Nexus Prime, emergency sessions ran day and night. The great chamber that had once echoed with alien laughter now buzzed with worried voices and angry arguments. The humans could not have done this alone, Counselor Zethkar insisted, his insect-like features twisted with frustration. Someone is helping them, someone with advanced technology. Who? Demanded Speaker Valterix. Name one species that would risk Council displeasure to help humans. The chamber fell silent. No one could answer that question. Every major species in the galaxy was represented on the Council. The minor species lacked the technology for such an operation. Even working together, it should have been impossible. Perhaps, suggested a nervous Thylorian representative, we should consider that we made an error. Maybe we should try to contact them, offer to negotiate. The laughter that greeted this suggestion was bitter and forced. Negotiate with who? Valtarix spread all 4 arms wide. They are gone, all of them. We cannot negotiate with ghosts. But the real problems were just beginning to show themselves. On the mining world of Kepler 442, the Kresh foreman Ziktar stared at the silent machinery that had processed rare minerals for the past decade. The humans who had designed and maintained. The complex systems were gone. The Kresh engineers who tried to restart the equipment only managed to break it further. How long before we can get replacement parts? Ziktar asked his assistant. The parts were manufactured on New Tokyo, but New Tokyo is empty now. The backup facility was on Armstrong Station, but that is also gone. The technical specifications were stored in human databases that we cannot access. Ziktar felt his compound eyes dim with worry. This mining operation supplied materials for half the Kresh industrial worlds. Without it, their economy would suffer badly. Similar problems appeared across the galaxy. Food distribution networks that humans had designed began to fail. The Velthari discovered that their agricultural worlds could not meet demand without human logistics systems. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for decades became chaotic without human coordination. The Altarian Trade Federation faced the worst crisis. 60% of their shipping used human-designed navigation systems. Without human technicians to maintain the equipment, ships began getting lost in hyperspace. 3 freighters vanished completely in the first week. Ambassador Cheyenne-Wu Kim had warned them years ago about becoming too dependent on human expertise. "We are happy to help," he had said, "but you should learn these systems yourselves." What happens if we are not here someday? The aliens had laughed at him then. Humans were not going anywhere. They needed the galaxy more than the galaxy needed them. Now they understood how wrong they had been. On Earth's moon, a single beacon transmitted on all frequencies. The message was simple and repeated every hour in every galactic language. "To the Galactic Council, you wanted us gone. Your wish is granted. Do not follow. Do not search for us. We will not be found unless we choose to be found." This message was recorded by Dr. So-Young Choi, Director of Human Strategic Planning, End transmission. The message had been broadcasting for 2 months. Every alien fleet that arrived in the Sol system found the same thing. Empty cities on Earth, abandoned lunar bases, silent orbital stations. Everything intact but lifeless, like museums of a vanished civilization. Some alien investigators tried to land and search for clues. They found clean cities with no signs of struggle. Homes with belongings still in place but no people. Food still fresh in refrigerators but no one to eat it. It was as if the entire human species had simply decided to leave at the same moment. Captain Velanara of the Kresh Investigation Fleet stood in Times Square in New York City. The famous billboards still displayed advertisements, but no humans walked the streets below. The silence was overwhelming. They knew, she said to her aide. Somehow. They knew what was coming. They planned this. But how, Captain? How do you evacuate 4 billion people without anyone noticing? Captain Velanara had no answer. But standing in the empty city, she began to understand something that terrified her. The humans had not just left. They had played a game the aliens never realized they were playing. And somehow, impossibly, the humans had one dot in the depths of space. Far from any star or planet that appeared on galactic charts, the real human fleet moved silently through the void. Generation ships the size of cities, mobile habitats that could support millions, factory vessels that could build entire worlds from raw materials. President Hezjin Lee stood on the observation deck of the flagship New Terra, watching the vast fleet stretch out in all directions. Behind them, the galaxy they had left continued its search. Ahead lay unknown space and unlimited possibilities. "Any regrets?" asked Admiral Donghyun Park, joining her at the window. "About leaving?" Sujin shook her head. "No, they made their choice. Now we make ours. And if they come looking for us?" Sujin smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Let them try. 6 months after the humans vanished, the galaxy was falling apart on the Kresh mining world of Zarian 7. Foreman Ziktar watched his workers try to repair the massive ore processor for the 15th time. The machine had been working perfectly for 8 years until the humans disappeared. Now it broke down every few days. "The crystals are burning out again," his chief engineer reported. "We need new ones. Where do we get them?" Ziktar asked, though he already knew the answer. The crystals were grown in human laboratories. We do not know how they made them. We have tried to copy the process, but our versions last only hours instead of months. Ziktar clicked his mandibles in frustration. Without this mining operation, 3 Kresh worlds would run out of power within a year. The humans had designed everything to work together. Take away one piece and the whole system collapsed. Similar problems plagued every corner of the galaxy. The Velthari Empire faced food shortages as their distribution networks failed. The Thylorian Republic struggled with ship navigation problems. Even the mighty Altarian Trade Federation saw their profits disappear as trade routes became unreliable, but the worst problem was not mechanical. It was political. Without human peacekeepers to stop conflicts, old enemies began settling scores. The Kepler Confederation launched raids against Centauri settlements. The Rigel Alliance blockaded shipping lanes they claimed as their territory. Minor species that had lived under human protection found themselves prey to stronger neighbors. On the Council Station Nexus Prime, Speaker Veltarix called another emergency session. The Great Chamber was half empty now. Many species had recalled their representatives to deal with crises at home. "We must find the humans," Veltarix declared, his forearms gesturing dramatically. "The galaxy needs them, needs them." Counselor Zektar's compound eyes glittered with anger. 6 months ago, you called them a problem to be solved? Now you need them? That was before we understood their true value, Veltarix replied stiffly. We may have been hasty in our judgment. The chamber erupted in bitter laughter. Even the aliens who supported the search knew how hollow those words sounded, Commander. Velinara of the Kresh Deep Space Fleet had spent 4 months searching the void between stars. Her ships used the most advanced sensors in the galaxy, but they found nothing. No human colonies, no ships, no energy signatures. It was as if 4 billion people had simply ceased to exist. Commander, her sensor officer called out, we are detecting an anomaly. Velinara hurried to the sensor station. On the screen, a faint energy reading pulsed in the darkness. What is it? Unknown, Commander. It appeared for only a few seconds, then vanished. The energy signature does not match any known technology. Set course for those coordinates, maximum speed. When they arrived at the location, they found empty space. But as Velinara studied the sensor logs, she noticed something strange. For just a moment, their instruments had detected something massive, something the size of a small moon. Run a full spectrum analysis, she ordered. Check for any trace of human technology. The results made her blood run cold. Faint traces of human engine signatures, but using power levels far beyond anything humans should possess. The energy readings suggested technology decades ahead of anything in the galactic database. How is this possible? Her science officer whispered. Human technology was primitive compared to ours. Velinara stared at the empty space where something impossible had briefly appeared. Maybe we were wrong about that too. Deep in the void, President Sujin Lee walked through the gardens of New Terra. The massive generation ship had been built in secret over 20 years. Hidden in the outer system beyond Pluto, now it served as the capital of humanity's mobile civilization. The gardens were beautiful, filled with plants from Earth and a dozen human colonies. Artificial sunlight streamed down from panels that perfectly mimicked natural daylight. Children played on the grass while their parents worked nearby. It looked peaceful, normal. But President Lee knew the truth. This was not just a ship. It was a fortress. Madam President, Admiral Donghayan Park approached, his face serious. We have a situation. The aliens? A Kresh exploration fleet detected one of our scout ships. Brief contact, but enough to get energy readings. President Lee nodded calmly. They had expected this eventually. What do our intelligence networks report? The galaxy is in chaos, Admiral Park replied. Food shortages, mechanical failures, political instability. Some species are asking the Council to find us and apologize. Others want to declare us enemies of galactic civilization. And the Council's response? Divided. Veltarix wants to negotiate. Zektar wants to use force. The smaller species are too busy with their own problems to care. President Lee smiled grimly. Perfect. Let them argue while we finish our work. She led Admiral Park to an observation deck where they could see the true scope of humanity's achievement. Stretching out in all directions, a fleet of thousands moved through the darkness. Generation ships, factory vessels, research platforms, defense stations. Each one was a masterpiece of engineering that made their old technology look like children's toys. How many worlds now? President Lee asked. 17 fully terraformed, 30 more in progress. Chief Engineer Hano Kim reports that the new matter conversion systems are working perfectly. We can build a world in months instead of centuries. President Lee nodded. While the aliens searched desperately through known space, humanity was creating an entire civilization in the void between galaxies. Using technologies they had developed in secret, they could turn asteroids into garden worlds and build cities from raw energy. And our defensive capabilities? Beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen, Admiral Park said with satisfaction. If they find us, they will get quite a surprise. Back in galactic space, the search for humans became more desperate. The Galactic Council authorized the largest exploration effort in their history. Thousands of ships spread out across the galaxy, following every lead. Investigating every anomaly, they found nothing, but the humans found them. Captain Jin Ho Nam of the UES Defiance watched another alien search fleet stumble around human space. His ship remained completely invisible, its advanced stealth systems beyond alien understanding. For 6 months, he had followed their search efforts, gathering intelligence and reporting back to Fleet Command. Captain, his tactical officer reported, the Valkyrie fleet is requesting permission to land on Earth. Denied, of course. What's their reaction? Frustration. They're broadcasting messages asking humans to respond. Offering negotiations, trade, agreements, even formal apologies. Captain Nam laughed bitterly. 6 months too late for that. His communications officer looked up from her station. Captain, we're receiving a priority message from New Terra. Admiral Park wants all intelligence. Ships to begin Phase 2 operations. About time, Captain Nam said. Send acknowledgement. Begin preparations for active monitoring. The aliens thought they were searching for humans. They had no idea the humans were watching every move they made. On the Thylorian homeworld, Prime Minister Kexton faced angry crowds in the capital city. Food riots had broken out in 12 cities as supply chains collapsed. The transportation network that humans had designed was failing without proper maintenance. Find them, the crowds chanted. Bring back the humans. Kexton had sent his own search fleets, but like all the others, they found nothing. The humans had vanished more completely than should be possible. It was as if they had knowledge of alien search patterns and capabilities that they should not possess. But how? Human technology was supposed to be inferior. Human intelligence networks were supposed to be limited. Human strategic planning was supposed to be chaotic and short-sighted. Standing on his palace balcony, looking down at the angry crowds, Kexton began to suspect a terrible truth. Maybe everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. In the depths of space, Chief Scientist Wu Jin Choi made the final adjustments to humanity's greatest project. The dimensional fold generator would allow them to hide entire star systems from conventional detection. Soon, even if the aliens searched for 1,000 years, they would never find the new human worlds. Doctor, his assistant called out, we're receiving reports from our intelligence network. The alien search efforts are intensifying. Wu Jin smiled. Let them search. By the time they realize what we have become, it will be far too late. The galaxy had wanted the humans gone. They had their wish. But they were about to learn that getting what you want and liking the consequences were two very different things. And deep in the void, humanity was becoming something the galaxy had never imagined possible. Something that would change the balance of power forever the aliens thought they were hunting for. Primitives hiding in the dark, they had no idea they were being hunted in return. 2 years had passed since the humans vanished, and the galaxy was on fire. The Thylorian Republic had invaded 6 neighboring systems while their victims begged for help that never came. The Kepler Confederation and the Centauri Alliance were locked in a brutal war over mining rights. Trade routes that had been safe for centuries now swarmed with pirates who knew no human peacekeepers would stop them on Nexus Prime. The Galactic Council met in emergency session for the 100th time. The once proud chamber looked shabby now. Several species had stopped sending representatives altogether. Others came only to demand help their colleagues could not provide. Order! Order! Speaker Veltarix slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor, but the arguing continued. His purple skin had grown pale with stress, and his forearms shook with exhaustion. "The Rigel Alliance has blockaded our shipping lanes," shouted the serious delegate. "Our colonies are starving." "The Vegan Confederacy is demanding tribute for safe passage," added another voice. "Where are the peacekeepers? Where is galactic law?" Veltarix wanted to laugh bitterly. Galactic law had depended on human enforcement. Without human ships, too? Backup council decisions, their laws were just words. "We must find the humans," he said for what felt like the 1000th time. "Everything depends on bringing them back." Back to what? Counselor Zektar stood up, his insect features twisted. With rage. Back to the council that insulted them? Back to the chamber where we laughed at them? Why would they help us now? The question hung in the air like poison. Everyone knew the answer. The humans had no reason to return. Not after what the council had tried to do to them. Far from the chaos of galactic civilization, Admiral Donghayan Park stood in the command center of New Terra. The massive screens around him showed the status of humanity's secret empire. 57 worlds now called themselves home. Generation ships the size of cities carried millions of humans to new star systems. Factory vessels built impossible technologies from pure energy and will. "Admiral," Major Eugene Kang approached, with the latest intelligence reports. "The situation in galactic space continues to deteriorate. The Thylorians have now conquered 12 systems. The Vegan Confederacy is demanding protection payments from every ship that passes through their territory." Admiral Park studied the reports with cold satisfaction. "Any change in their search efforts?" "They have given up looking for us in normal space. Some species are suggesting we found a way to leave the galaxy entirely." Let them think that. Admiral Park turned to the strategic display showing their hidden fleet. "What is the status of our defensive preparations?" "All systems ready. The new shield technology can protect our entire fleet from any known weapon. Our ships can phase in and out of normal space at will. Even if they found us, they could not touch us." Admiral Park nodded. But he knew the real question was not whether the aliens could find them. The real question was whether humanity should return to the galaxy at all. "Any word from the peace faction?" Major Kong's expression darkened. "Dr. Min Neseo Yun's group is still advocating for contact. They believe we should offer limited assistance to prevent total galactic collapse." "And your assessment?" "The galaxy is learning a valuable lesson. Let them finish learning it," Admiral Park agreed. The aliens had made their choice when they demanded human submission. Now they could live with the consequences, but the decision was not his to make alone. On the other side of New Terra, President Sujin Lee met with her cabinet in the ship's council chambers. The room looked like a traditional meeting hall from Earth, but the windows showed star fields no human had ever seen before. "The reports are clear," Defense Secretary Kyung-hoon Park said. "Galactic civilization is collapsing without our intervention. Millions are dying in wars that human peacekeepers could stop in days. And whose fault is that?" Foreign Secretary Hai-Jin Kim replied sharply. "They chose to treat us as children. They chose to threaten our freedom. They chose to demand our submission." "But innocent people are suffering," Interior Secretary Min Neseo Yun argued. "Species that had nothing to do with the Council's decisions, refugees fleeing wars we could prevent." President Lee listened to the familiar arguments. For 2 years, her cabinet had debated this question. Some wanted to return and save the galaxy. Others wanted to let it burn. All of them had valid points. "What does Admiral Park recommend?" she asked. "He believes we should wait," Secretary Park replied. "Let the aliens understand fully what they have lost. Then, if we choose to return, it will be on our terms. And if the galaxy destroys itself while we wait, then it was never worth saving in the first place. The harsh words hung in the air. President Lee understood the anger behind them. The aliens had not just insulted humanity. They had threatened to steal human children and destroy human freedom. Some wounds were hard to forgive, but before she could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. "Madam President," Admiral Park's voice came over the communications system. "We have a situation. You need to see this." In the command center, the main screen showed a sight that made everyone freeze. A massive alien fleet was approaching the Sol system. Not a search fleet this time, a war fleet. Thousands of ships from dozens of species, all flying under Galactic Council banners. "How many?" President Lee asked quietly. "Over 15,000 vessels," Admiral Park replied. "Representatives from 12 major species. It appears the Council has finally decided to use force. To do what? There is nothing in Sol system but empty worlds." "That may be exactly the point. Prime Minister Kelthara of the Altarian Trade Federation is leading the fleet. Our intelligence suggests they plan to claim human territory and force us to return." President Lee felt a cold anger building in her chest. Even now, even after 2 years of chaos, the aliens still believed they could command humanity. What is our defensive posture? "One ship," Admiral Park said with a slight smile. Captain Kyung-suo volunteered to meet them. "One ship against 15,000? The Use Horizon is not exactly a normal ship, Madam President." On the bridge of the Horizon, Captain Kyung-suo watched the alien armada approach Earth. His ship hung alone in space, looking tiny compared to the massive fleet bearing down on it, but appearances could be deceiving. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission from the alien flagship." "Put it through." The holographic image of Prime Minister Kelthara appeared on the bridge. The Altarian looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird with golden scales and fierce yellow eyes. "Human vessel, you are ordered to surrender immediately. This system is now under Galactic Council protection. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." Captain O smiled politely. "Minister Kelthara, I was not aware the Council had authority in human space." "Human space no longer exists. You abandoned it. We are here to restore order and bring your people back to galactic civilization where they belong." "I see. And if we refuse?" "Then you will be brought back by force. The galaxy needs humans to return. We will ensure you do so for your own good, and the good of all civilized species." Captain O looked around his bridge. His crew was calm, professional, ready. Behind them, invisible to alien sensors, the greatest fleet in galactic history waited for his signal. "Minister, before you proceed, I have a question. Are you absolutely certain you want to do this?" Kelthara's golden scales flushed with anger. "Your primitive ships cannot stand against the combined might of galactic civilization. Surrender now, and we will be merciful." "I see," Captain O nodded thoughtfully. "Well, you cannot say we did not warn you." He turned to his tactical officer. "Full defensive posture. Send the signal to Fleet Command." "Signal sent, Captain." On the alien flagship, Kelthara watched the human ship with satisfaction. One small vessel against his mighty fleet. This would be over quickly. "All ships, open fire. Disable that vessel, and prepare boarding parties." 15,000 alien warships unleashed their weapons at the lone human ship. The space around Earth lit up with energy beams, plasma cannons, and missile volleys. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon, and every shot passed harmlessly through the horizon as if it were not there. The alien fleet fired again and again. The human ship remained untouched, unmoved, impossible. "What is happening?" "Kelthara screamed at his weapons officer. "Unknown, Prime Minister. Our sensors show the ship is there, but our weapons cannot touch it. It is as if it exists in a different dimension." Captain O smiled as he opened a channel to the alien fleet. "Minister Kelthara, thank you for the demonstration. Now let me show you what human technology has become." The space around Earth began. to shimmer, and then, one by one, the ships of humanity's secret fleet began to appear. The space around Earth filled with impossible ships, they appeared from nowhere, sliding into reality like ghosts becoming solid. Each vessel was a work of art and engineering that made the alien fleet look like toys. Sleek hulls that seemed to bend light around them, weapons that hummed with contained energy, shields that sparkled with colors that had no names. Prime Minister Kelthara stared at his tactical display in horror. One moment, his fleet of 15,000 ships had been alone in the system. The next moment they were surrounded by twice that number of human vessels. "How many?" he whispered. "Still counting, Prime Minister," his sensor officer replied with a shaking voice. "At least 30,000 ships, maybe more. They keep appearing." "That is impossible. Humans had less than 500 ships when they left." "These readings suggest otherwise, Prime Minister." On the bridge of the UES horizon, Captain Kyung-Soo-Oh opened a channel to the entire alien fleet. His voice was calm, almost friendly. "Attention. Galactic Council forces. You came here to force humanity back into your failing civilization. You came here believing we were still the same species you dismissed 2 years ago. You came here thinking you could threaten us into submission." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You were wrong." Fleet Admiral Yoonji Song's voice joined the transmission from her flagship, the massive UES Ascendant. The ship was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons that operated on principles the aliens had never imagined. "I am Fleet Admiral Song of the United Human Defense Forces. You have entered human space without permission. You have threatened human citizens. You have declared your intention to use force against peaceful vessels. These actions constitute an act of war." "Kelthara," found his voice at last. "You cannot threaten the Galactic Council. We represent 12 species, billions of citizens." "And we represent humanity," Admiral Song replied. 4 billion humans who chose freedom over submission, who chose progress over stagnation, who chose to become something greater than what you thought possible." Captain O smiled as he watched the alien fleet's formations begin to waver. Some ships were already trying to back away, their commanders finally understanding what they faced. "Minister Kelthara, you asked for a demonstration of human capabilities. You shall have one." The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Ships that had been invisible became solid. Weapons that hummed with contained power began to glow. And around the alien fleet, something incredible happened. Space itself began to change. The stars shifted position. The familiar constellations rearranged themselves. The very fabric of reality bent and twisted around the alien ships like clay in an artist's hands. "What are you doing to us?" Kelthara screamed into his communicator. "Showing you what human science can achieve when freed from your limitations," Admiral Song replied. "We call this dimensional manipulation. We can move space, time, matter, and energy as easily as you move your ships." The alien fleet found themselves trapped in a bubble of altered space-time. Their weapons would not fire. Their engines would not start. Their communications could only reach each other and the human ships that held them prisoner. "This is impossible," Kelthara whispered. "No species has this technology." "No species had this technology," Captain O corrected. Past tense. "Humans do now." On New Terra, President Soo-Jin Lee watched the confrontation through quantum-linked sensors. Her cabinet surrounded her, their faces mixing satisfaction with concern. "The demonstration is effective," Defense Secretary Kyung-Hoon Park observed. "But what do we do with them now?" "We teach them," President Lee said simply. "They came here to force us back into their broken system. Instead, we will show them what a better system looks like." She opened a direct channel to the alien fleet. When she spoke, her voice reached every ship in the trapped armada. "I am President Soo-Jin Lee of the United Human Republic. 2 years ago, your Galactic Council demanded our submission. You threatened to enslave our people and steal our children. You laughed when we walked away." The channel remained silent. 15,000 alien crews listened to every word. You believed humans needed you more than you needed us. You believed human technology was primitive. You believed human society was chaotic. You believed we would come crawling back, begging. For your protection, President Lee's voice grew harder. You were wrong about everything. Chief Scientist Woojin Choi joined the transmission from his research vessel. While you searched for us in normal space, we built an entire civilization beyond your detection. We developed technologies that make your greatest achievements look like stone tools. We created worlds from nothing but energy and will. The holographic displays throughout the alien fleet began showing images that defied belief. Entire planets being constructed in months, ships that could phase between dimensions, cities that floated in the void between stars, powered by controlled singularities. We learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level, Dr. Choi continued. We learned to fold space and time. We learned to convert pure energy into anything we needed. While you argued about who should rule us, we transcended the need to be ruled. Admiral Song's voice returned to the channel. The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved. Your authority over human space is revoked. Your claim to represent galactic civilization is rejected. You cannot dissolve the Council. Kelthara protested. We have ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. You ruled through strength, Admiral Song replied. Now we are stronger. President Lee's voice cut through the protests. Any species that wishes peaceful contact with humanity may apply through proper diplomatic channels. Those who prove themselves trustworthy will be welcomed as equals. Those who seek to dominate others will find us standing in their way. Around the trapped alien fleet, the human ships began to demonstrate their true capabilities. Vessels the size of asteroids materialized from folded space. Weapons that could disintegrate matter at the atomic level powered up briefly, just long enough to show their potential. Defense screens that could withstand the explosion of stars shimmered into visibility. This is your new reality, President Lee announced. Humanity is no longer asking for a place in your civilization. We are offering you a place in ours. The demonstration continued for hours. The aliens watched in growing terror as humans casually displayed technologies that violated everything they thought they knew about physics. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Weapons that fired backwards through time. Defense systems that made their targets simply cease to exist. Finally, Admiral Song spoke again. You came here with 15,000 ships to force our submission. We could destroy your entire fleet without losing a single human life. But we will not. Despite your threats, despite your arrogance, despite your complete lack of wisdom, we will show you mercy. The dimensional prison around the alien fleet began to dissolve. Their weapons came back online. Their engines restarted. Their communications open to the wider galaxy. You are free to leave, Captain O announced. Return to your worlds. Tell them what you have seen. Tell them that humanity has changed the rules of the game. But Kelthara was not ready to surrender. We will return. The entire galaxy will unite against you. You cannot fight everyone? We will not need to fight anyone, President Lee replied calmly. Watch. The main display in every alien ship activated, showing a real-time view of the galaxy. As they watched in stunned silence, human ships began appearing in star systems across known space, not invading, not conquering. Simply arriving at the Thylorian border, human peacekeepers moved between the warring fleets, their mere presence stopping the fighting. On Kresh mining worlds, human engineers began repairing the machines their species had abandoned. In the refugee camps of a dozen worlds, human aid ships materialized with food, medicine, and hope. We do not need to conquer the galaxy, President Lee explained. We already saved it. The aliens stared at the displays in shock. In every system where chaos reigned, humans were restoring order. Where people suffered, humans brought relief. Where war threatened, humans imposed peace. How? Kelthara whispered. While you spent 2 years searching for us, we spent 2 years watching you, Admiral Song replied. We know every problem in the galaxy. We know every conflict, every shortage, every need, and now we have the power to fix them all. Captain O smiled as he watched the alien fleet's formation completely collapse. Ships that had come to impose their will on humanity now drifted helplessly, their crews overwhelmed by what they had witnessed. The age of alien supremacy is over, he announced. Humanity no longer asks for permission to exist. We no longer beg for acceptance. We no longer submit to the judgment of those who consider themselves our betters. President Lee's final words echoed across the galaxy as human ships continued their work of restoration and protection. From this day forward, any species that wishes to live in peace will have human protection. Any species that threatens the innocent will face human justice. Any species that seeks to enslave others will discover what true power looks like. The alien fleet began its retreat from Earth, leaving behind everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. Behind them, humanity's ships continued their work, rebuilding a civilization that had nearly destroyed itself in their absence.